friends, this is Mrs. Smith, your art teacher, introducing you the modern art period. Guess what? We are going to end the modern period with fashion design Jackson Pollock replicas. Do you see the splatter? That means splatter art. I have some examples for you, and in this lesson I'm going to introduce the modern period, and your next mini lesson is going to be me and my family splattering some clothes to make it fashion design. And in fashion design, I mean that you're going to get clothes, if you have some old clothes, if not, you could do it on paper, you could design cards, and you can splatter some of your clothes to make it into a new fashion. All a part of fashion design. So here's some examples of a shirt that was so comfy, it got stained, splattered it, boom, have a new fashion. Are you ready to learn about the modern period? Let's get started. Because in this school year, this is how we're ending the art periods. We have for you here, this is some modern art. Let's see the art timeline that I have on my art room wall. We have the ancient period, ancient art like cave drawings. Then a lot of you know we looked at the Mona Lisa for rule of thirds, and the Ninja Turtle names, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Then that was the art in the castles, remember, where it was very precise. It was photorealism. It looked so real that that's what was acceptable in art. When they loosened up in the 1800s, that was more of Monet and who did, dun dun, let me show you a little peek. Let's see if you remember these artists. Claude Monet did the water lilies, and Vincent who did Starry Night. That's my replica, because we did replicas of the famous artists trying to be inspired by their styles. As you can see, these impressionist artists loosened up and they started to show the brushstrokes, which is the 1800s, the impressionism period. And then you have Munch with the Scream, where artists are now expressing their emotions, moving all the way to the modern period, and that's what we're looking at. So we're going to look at Cubism by Picasso, where he started to use geometric shapes to loosen up in the modern period. Kandinsky, where he uses some geometric shapes, some watercolors, some swiggly lines, elements of art. And we're going to end with Jackson Pollock. Check out how much his splatter art sold for. Yep, $140 million for his splatter art. And we are going to do it together, my friends. So I'm going to introduce to you, if we have had time in class, I would have printed out a portrait of your photography, and you would have cut it out in geometric shapes and glued them on. And this is a project called Cubism Inspired Art. Then for the modern period, we are looking at Kandinsky, and we're going to do Kandinsky's inspired art. If you have extra time, feel free to do this at home. This is just an introduction to the modern period. Remember I said if you don't have clothes? Yes. As you can see, we're going to work with the analogous color scheme, which means instead of Jackson Pollock splattering of ugly colors, we're going to look at our color wheel. And the analogous colors, remember, are the three colors closest to one another, which interior decorators use to bring out the peaceful emotions. So that way our Jackson Pollock inspired art and replicas will have a peaceful feel and will look really cool on your shoes or your clothes or your whatever you choose to splatter, whether it be paper, a card, or anything. Then we had a 3D plan, oops, that's upside down, for working with either Cubism or any of the style of the modern artists, if you want to keep going with modern art and work with recycling items. But I'm just introducing the modern period to you, showing you Picasso, one of the world's most famous artists with Cubism, and introducing something you've already been studying, a little peek into what? Surrealism, things that can't be real. Remember Salvador Dali and the dripping clocks? This is all inspired. So we're looking at art timeline. This is a Claude Monet dabbing on the flowers inspired replica. And I'm going to spin this one around. We always should, as artists, have your own photography as a primary source to show that we're not copying from the internet, that we're using our own ideas. So this was just a really quick recap and introduction into the history of art timeline, and dun dun, funny cartooning. You could see a little bit inspiration from my favorite Calvin and Hobbes. And cartooning is a really fun modern art way to loosen up, express yourselves, but all with this. Don't forget, the highest grade, both for IB art and to show technical skill here in America, is gradient or tone, going from dark to light. And shading shows that you have some technical skills. So just wanted to remind you of that before we get going on your Jackson Pollock Fashion replicas. So what I have for you is a plan. And if you have had me before, you know the principles of art, elements of art, is really great working with a plan. So I want you to think about, I'm just doing Hunger Games inspired, what kind of plan would benefit you the most. And I'll show you a little more of my plans when we do splatter in the next lesson. So this was your introduction to the modern period, and hopefully some really great splatter art will be coming up on our next lesson, because we're going to splatter together. Peace out, friends. Splatter. Get excited to splatter.